The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, more details coming out from President Trump about Iran in just the last few hours, putting out a statement saying that great progress has been made, but if for any reason a deal isn't reached between the United States and Iran, he says that it probably will be. And if the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately, quote, open for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells in Karg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants, which we have purposely not yet touched. And then he said, this will be retribution for our many soldiers and others that Iran has butchered and killed over the old regime's 47-year reign of terror. And then Trump ends in classic Trump. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Meantime, the White House also talking about these attacks by illegal immigrants on American citizens. And of course, everyone talking about the case of that Loyola University student, Sheridan Gorman, who was killed by the guy who never should have been in this country to begin with, the Venezuelan who had a criminal record and never should have been out on the streets. So here is Caroline Levitt talking about the lack of media attention. Not only do they feel they are dealing with many Democrats on the street, she also says the media is to blame for not even getting out the story, and she calls that a disgrace. Listen to Caroline Levitt.
Just last week, Sheridan Gorman, a young woman in Chicago, was shot and killed on the street walking with her friends outside of her university by a illegal alien from Venezuela who had no right to be here in the first place. And it's despicable that Democrats are currently defunding the department that's responsible for removing illegal aliens like that. And I would also add it's despicable that the lack of coverage of this young woman's case, of her life, and the way that it was tragically cut short. I saw a survey over the weekend that I'd like to bring to all of your attention. This is the media coverage of the case of Sheridan Gorman. You have ABC News has spent 1 minute and 19 seconds between 2 days when this case was first alerted. You have CBS 2 minutes and 1 second. You have NBC 23 seconds spent on the life of a young, beautiful American woman whose life was taken short by an illegal alien who should have never been here in the first place, when we are in the middle of a battle on Capitol Hill with a major political party, the Democrat Party, who wants to defund the agency that is responsible for protecting Americans. I think her life was worth more than 23 seconds on cable television, and I think the people in this room have a responsibility to report on cases like this, because it just exemplifies why the president believes so strongly in deporting illegal aliens from our communities.
And yet there are so many Democrats that are continuing with this message of defund ICE. I mean, which is why we're still in a government shutdown. Thank goodness President Trump has paid the TSA workers. Trump to the rescue. Thank God he did that, because that's terrible to do to the TSA workers. Already there are reports at the airports that the lines are moving a lot more smoothly because now agents are coming to work. And also ICE is there helping out too as well. So that's a great thing. But the question is the fact that members of Congress left, especially the Senate, saying, nope, we're not going to vote on that. I think they met for 30 seconds today, and then they broke, and now they're on a break for at least the end of the week. They could get called back, but they could be gone for 2 weeks. So what, the shutdown's going to go for 2 weeks? And, quote, non-frontline workers, we're not talking about those who are arresting, illegal immigrants on the streets, but those who help them, those who are assisting those individuals, whether it's in ICE or Customs and Border Protection. Well, both of them, those groups, there's a lot of them in there. There's 1,000, and they're not getting paid. I mean, this is ridiculous. I cannot believe that Democrats are doing this, and there should be more outcry saying, how could Democrats get away with doing this, holding people hostage, the American public hostage, and these great people who are working hard. Well, here is Zoran Mondani, because he says ICE should be gone. The New York mayor, he repeated that they're a rogue group. Here it is.
I think first and foremost, we're making clear that no one is above the law in this city, that everyone has to follow the rule of law. And I have made clear to the president, both in our private conversations and our public conversations, about the fact that I believe that ICE is a rogue agency. It's a reckless one. It's one that delivers nothing towards the furthering of the cause of public safety. And I've also been public about my belief that ICE is an entity that should be abolished. And that is critically important in our city, where we've seen too many New Yorkers living in fear of even going to what would otherwise be routine immigration check-ins.
And let's not forget the case of an immigrant who opened fire recently. Hezbollah-inspired. There is no doubt about it. This is the guy who opened fire on that Michigan synagogue. Well, today we heard from the FBI, and it was really chilling to hear the details surrounding this case. And this guy had a brother who was a Hezbollah commander. So I'm sorry. I don't feel sorry that your brother was taken out. And some of the things that he was saying to his sister, this is just 10 minutes before he opened fire on that synagogue, which was packed with Jewish students. Thank goodness they were all unharmed. But here's one of the things he said. I couldn't believe this. It says, "This is the largest gathering for Israelis in the state of Michigan in the United States. I have a booby-trapped car. I will forcefully enter and start shooting at them. God willing, I will kill as many of them as I possibly can." What a nice guy. Saying it to his sister right beforehand. What a beautiful family. Can you imagine? And then in a second video that he immediately sent, follow this video. This was just a few seconds long and had the message, "A special operation." So he's bragging to his family that he's about to open fire on a Jewish synagogue filled with Jewish kids. This monster, how many more people are like this among us? Here's the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan talking about the case just a few hours ago.
And it makes no legal difference if the current leader of Hezbollah himself, Naim Qassem, called this man and told him to attack Temple Israel, or whether he simply heeded Hezbollah's call to kill Jews and, in his words, burn their world. So do not be misled. This terrorist acted on behalf of Hezbollah, and he intended to kill others, not just himself. He could have done that in a garage or in his basement. He did not need to plan for days, arm himself, and try to take dozens of Jewish American children with him. His death was just a means or a tool to kill as many Jews as he could. That's why his last statements were that he was on a special operation to kill as many of them as he possibly can. And it's because of the evidence presented today that there is no question that we would prove that this man provided material support to the terrorist organization Hezbollah.
And then, of course, we also those massive No Kings rallies that took place all over the United States and overseas. And earlier today, we were talking to James Galliotto, a former FBI special agent, who was talking about the foreign funds that was going into those protests, billions upon billions of dollars. And some of them, who knows, from very questionable sources. Take a listen.
Over the weekend, they had these demonstrations worldwide, the so-called No Kings demonstration, and there are reports that there's foreign money funding these events. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so this has been going on now for a while. We obviously know that George Soros is a big funder, and there's a number of groups, and I think it is totally ironic, Judge, that you would have people marching under the mantra of no kings, and yet at the same time holding up pictures of the recently deceased mullah, the Ayatollah in Iran, from the regime, as well as pictures of the Venezuelan dictator who's now in U.S. custody. And that is the irony here, is you've got the Democratic Socialists of America and people like the Communist Party of America that are funding these things and supporting these things. You see their flags waved out there. Now, you see one dopey Confederate flag that some, idiot flies, during the January 6th protest and incursion into the Capitol in January 6th. and that's all you see, and that's all you heard about from the media. But in this instance, you have a lot of these shadowy groups and a lot of these groups that are about subversion. And I'll close with this. In 1958, J. Edgar Hoover, the first FBI director, wrote a book called Masters of Deceit. And it was about the Soviet Union and about how communism, he was concerned, and many were concerned, might proliferate in the United States.
Yep.
This was in the 50s.
Wow.
And here we are now with people proudly flying communist flags, and this is normal.
And that is normal. That's frightening. And that is what we saw just recently. That's pretty shocking. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Nick in Virginia. Line 3. Go ahead, Nick. Your thoughts tonight.
Hi, Rita. Good evening. And Rita, could I preface my comment with something, a proposal to you?
Sure. Go ahead. How much money do you have?
I'll have to sell my house first.
Okay. All right. No problem.
I'm down on one knee, and I've got my right hand under your right hand and my left hand on top of your right hand, sort of a hand sandwich.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, would you please run for be the next mayor of New York City?
Thank you. Only if you'll be my, will you be my deputy? That's the key question.
I will help get some voters for you.
Thank you. Now, if you will be my deputy or my press secretary.
Oh, gosh, I'd love to do that.
Then we'll go for it. You know, it's so funny. I literally just got a message from someone a couple minutes ago who said the exact same thing.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that, which is why I'm laughing, which is very funny.
That's an omen.
You know what? You know what's funny, Nick? I love covering politicians. Like for me, I enjoy covering them. I feel like my job is to be able to cover them and to question them and to be able to ask them and to be able to give truth to power with all you guys. And I have a lot of compassion for a lot of politicians because it is a tough job, and the sacrifice is a lot on your family and everything else. But I also find there's a lot of hogwash that a lot of politicians have to be involved in. And I don't think I could deal with that hogwash. What do you think, Nick?
Well, you do have a great, bully pulpit, and I guess you need to keep it because if it wasn't for talk radio now, I don't know where people were going to get any kind of information.
Yeah, I agree. I hope we bring the voice of sanity and the voice of reason, right, in your life. And I love the fact that here at WABC and Red Apple Media that we're able to share it truthfully and candid with all of you guys across the country. Like, to me, that's the greatest honor to be able to do that every night. But Nick, I'll consider it. Yeah, you'll have to think about it, right? You might have to get down on the other knee too.
I'm going to keep calling you and hounding you till you do something.
All right. Only if it's a joint venture. Okay, Nick, now we have 1 million people hearing that you agree to join me on the team.
Well, I know we can raise the money.
Oh, you're very sweet.
Can I make one comment here?
Sure, go ahead.
Sure. Rita, seriously, I believe that any change in the regime there in Iran is going to have to come in the form of an armed revolution. Revolution. And I hope that Israel intelligence and U.S. intelligence are identifying some potential freedom fighter leaders in order to possibly arm them to overthrow the current terrorist government.
I agree. And also, I think Kurds. I also think that they can bring in some other forces that maybe can help support those groups too as well. And I hope that they are, I'm sure that I would imagine, CIA and some other folks are arming a lot of those key folks, getting the weaponry and waiting for the go sign. As President Trump even said. President Trump said, stay in right now. It's not safe. And when we tell you it's ready, then you come out. So I do think there's a lot of preparations and a lot of stuff being made right now as we speak. And I do hope that they get the support of groups like Kurds or others, too. So it's power in numbers because, the problem that we're all seeing right now, any other regime would have surrendered, on day 1 or 2 or 3. Here we are, it's been a month, and The problem is we're dealing with fanatics. We're dealing with zealots. We're dealing with, the same kind of mentality of those people who are crashing the planes in Pearl Harbor, saying everything's fine, even if everything around them is burning. So it may take a little more pounding to get them to submission than the average one. And you might need more forces, hopefully Kurds, and hopefully, like you said, the great Iranian courageous citizens to all rise up in a coordinated fashion and take back their government. I pray that happens soon. Nick, thank you. And thanks for the mayor endorsement, too. That's great, Nick. Thanks so much. 1-800-848-9222. And Mayor Rita Cosby will be right back.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Tap the banner to learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
Well, take whatever you want. That's what a king does. And guess what? President Trump listens to voters, and he listens to the polls, and he also listens to his instinct. And that's why he's doing what he is doing with Iran. He knows he can change the course of history, just like he did with Maduro in Venezuela. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Liz in Florida on line 3. Go ahead, Liz.
Hi, Rita. I think you would make an awesome politician, but I would miss you too much on the radio.
Thank you, and I would miss you guys too much too. So I can't. We can't have withdrawal. That means I gotta stay here with you guys, which is my choice. I'm the lucky one.
Okay, so I have some news for you. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but Israel just approved a law imposing the death penalty for convicted terrorists. And
very interesting.
Actually, right. 62 were in favor, 48 opposed. But and one abstained, actually. It was co-sponsored by this woman whose husband was murdered when he was 25, 3 years ago, and she was pregnant. And she got wounded in the face and the torso, and she had to have a C-section.
Do me a favor, Liz. Hold on if you could, because we got to go to a hard break. But I want to hear more about this. And I think it's very interesting that Israel is now doing that. Stick with us. Much more with Liz and the rest of you after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
By the time I hit my 50s, I'd learned a few things. Like how family is precious. Work can always wait. And 99% of people over 50 already have the virus that causes shingles. Not everyone at risk will develop it, but I did. The painful, blistering rash disrupted my life for weeks. Don't learn about your shingles risk the hard way. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
Rita Cosby is on.
Well, these No Kings protests that took place this weekend were downright scary. Listen to again in Chicago what the protesters were chanting. And also on the walls of L.A., they spray painted, try to kill a local ICE officer. I mean, this is crazy. So much for peaceful protests. And here's in Chicago. Listen to this rhetoric.
You got to grab a gun. We got to turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents got to get shot and wiped out. The state machinery, that's a full display right there, has to get wiped out.
I mean, does that sound like peaceful protest? Not where I come from. And here's Bill O'Reilly with his take on how vacuous these protesters are.
But here's the real kicker on the thing. So, okay, no kings, right? Well, what are your solutions to the problems? So, no nukes in Iran? What about, what are you going to do about that? And I would have liked to have been out there to be protesting. What do you think about Iran being just a few weeks away from enriching uranium to the extent that it could develop a low-level nuke and blow the hell out of Paris? Now, I assume they would deny it all, right? But what's your solution to that? Do you have a solution? How about immigration enforcement? I mean, how many people have to die? How many crimes have to be committed before something is done that organizes a federal agency, and I want it to be responsible, to deal with the danger of undocumented criminals? What's your solution to undocumented criminals? What is it?
By the way, Bill, you're right. That would be a fascinating question to ask them.
Yeah,
and they'd probably say, stay here, right?
you want to abolish ICE, and that was 100% across the board. Abolish ICE. Abolish it. Don't want it. Okay. What are you going to replace it with? Who's going to track these people down? What about Ukraine? What's your solution to Ukraine? What would you do? How about food prices? How would you know King's people bring them down? And so it's a no solutions demonstration, really.
So, right. I mean, if you ask them, they wouldn't know what to say. Hey, what's your result? How can you fix this? How do you want to make the country better? I hate Trump. So what don't you like? What can we do differently? How do we fix it? That's what you'd hear. They're so vacuous. They're so empty. They're just out there going, okay, next protest. And yet, as I mentioned, the Iranian people out there being slaughtered, women too, also stoned. I don't remember them out there, protecting the women that were being stoned. I don't remember that whatsoever. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go back to Liz in Florida. Liz, sorry about that. I think this is so interesting what you were saying, that Israel has just approved this death penalty for convicted terrorists, right? Explain a little bit more about it.
Right. So it's about time. And these terrorists, they put them in jail. And then, of course, what do? They'll, get out, or they'll be, asked to go. They may not stay there. And they're treated really well from the money of, Israel pays them, gives them good food, and gives them, like room and board. And they just need to be gone because they'll go and do it again. Now, I don't think it's going to deter them because these terrorists, they don't care if they die. I was actually reading an article that these terrorist families, they have tons and tons of kids just so they can, have them die at, for Allah or whatever.
Yeah, no, they're fanatical. Now, let me ask you, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but do they say how long are there appeals? Like in the United States, there are so many appeals, even if you've been convicted, because, and the reason, it's a noble reason, although it could also be such an abuse of the system, obviously, but it's a noble reason that they obviously don't want to make a mistake if they're going to sentence somebody to death. So like on federal death row, and also in states in particular, in states they often have a lot of different appeal levels where, you get X amount of appeals, and it's often more expensive to even institute the death penalty on someone because you have to pay for so many appeals prior to that, even if it's like a straightforward case where the person did it. I'm all for not making sure the wrong person doesn't get executed. That's for sure. On the other hand, if somebody did a heinous crime, I don't have a problem with the death penalty. What do you do? What do you think, Liz?
Well, I think Israel has really good intel, and I think that if they're convicted, they did it, and that's okay. I mean, the last time, let's see, I know that they had eliminated the death penalty in, I think it was 1954, and I think the last person that was executed was Adolf Eichmann. And they brought this back because this woman who is a Knesset member and her husband, and they were shot at and by an Islamic group, and of course money from Iran. She lost her husband. She almost lost her child. She was 7 months pregnant, and she actually did something amazing. Also, she also introduced legislation to ban the waving of Palestinian flags on Israeli college campuses, and which is kind of interesting because you have here in America, they burn our flags and they take their flags and they put it in its place. So it just takes one person to make a change.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, I know who Adolf Eichmann is, but I want to make sure everybody understands he was obviously a Nazi party butcher, convicted war criminal, and believed to be one of the organizers of the Holocaust. And you're right, he was found remotely. They brought him back. I remember all of that stuff. And of course, one of the people who implemented the final solution, which is just, if anybody deserves it, he and of course Adolf Hitler and Himmler and all of those people, anybody associated with that, absolutely deserved it 1,000%. But it is interesting, like you just said, that this couple is now making such a huge difference. And it's interesting because Israel, often the other thing too is often they trade too. Remember, they house these like monsters often, and often they do it in return for also trading too. Because remember when that soldier went down, the Israeli soldier who went down, they traded that soldier. I think it was for like 1,000 Palestinians, hardened Palestinians. That's how much Israel appreciates life and also wants the back of their soldiers. So it's an interesting move that they're doing this now, and maybe they just feel like maybe this might serve as some sort of deterrent, so they don't feel like they can hang out in the jail until they get some sort of trade, right?
Right, that's what I meant before. So they do trade, and so you put them in the jails, they trade them, they give them like a zillion of their prisoners for one Israeli, one Jew, and they did that with Sinwar. The Israeli doctors. They did brain surgery on him.
Right. They had the best Israeli doctors treated that monster who was the head of Hamas.
Right. Israel cares about everybody. You have everyone living in Israel, but they have so much hatred. I mean, and look what's happening into our streets. It is crazy. They are mentally ill. But of course, these protesters are getting paid, but they have no clue what they're protesting for. They have no clue of they're not educated. They know nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, they are so out of touch. Well, Liz, I'm so glad that you told us about this, that Israel's doing. We really appreciate it. Always interesting and always great to hear from you. Let's go to Charles in Woodbridge, New Jersey. Charles, your thoughts tonight?
Well, these people that are protesting and, wherever, these no kings and everything, they're always calling themselves communists and socialists, and even your mayor in New York, they're calling them
Commie Mandani.
Yeah, God forbid there should ever be real communist revolutions. I remember history, like those revolutions in Russia and China. Those communists over there, they were people who were working, and they're worried about kings, that czar, what they did to them. All those people that are talking about being communists, they seem to have all the money. And if there really was a communist revolution, they would be the first people that they would go after. I mean, my opinion.
Yeah, no, you're right. They have no. How about the people that are out there protesting gays for Gaza? I mean, if that's not a hypocrisy and la la land, do you imagine if you were out there and you had a sign saying gays for Hamas? you'd last probably, I don't know, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. What do you think if you were literally there in Gaza with the same sign?
It's really sad what's going on over there, and you really nobody wants to see anybody get hurt or killed. I feel bad about what's going on, but what they did to that on October 7th, that was a very bad thing. I'm not saying that they're getting what they deserve, but I mean, how can you figure they could do anything else other than protect themselves the best way that they can?
Absolutely, and let's not forget the people that were sponsoring those butchers on Hamas. I'm talking about the Hamas attackers. Guess what? They got paid from Iran because Iran is the head of the snake and Hamas is just a proxy of Iran. Hamas is a proxy, as is Hezbollah, as is the Houthis, all these different groups, which is why it's absolutely courageous that President Trump is doing what he's doing right now. And for these people to call him a king, are you kidding me? He is bringing more freedom to people across the globe than any president that I've seen in modern times. I mean, it is absolutely preposterous. If he can bring freedom to Iran, that would be unbelievable. He already started doing it clearly with Venezuela, and now he's about to do this with Iran. And if he can bring backing to those individuals where they feel emboldened enough to take over their country, that's incredible. And these people that are out there at the No Kings protests, they have no shame. They're out there like slamming Trump, saying, Trump derangement syndrome. He's a king. He's this, he's that. What, do they want to go back to Biden and send pallets of cash in the middle of the night? Is that their solution? 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. By the way, I hope they also find who wrote on that federal building, kill ICE, kill local ICE on a federal building in L.A. I mean, whoever wrote that, throw the book at them. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania, line 2. Go ahead, Joaquin. Your thoughts tonight.
Good evening, Rita. As a matter of fact, you brought up that one thing before as far as executing these terrorists in Israel. It will stop these exchanges for terrorists, for them taking hostages to exchange for prisoners. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is because Israel has gotten, I mean, I commend them that they value life. And it's that motto of no soldier left behind or no Israeli citizen left behind. I mean, it really is remarkable. And you could even see, like, when the bodies of hostages, remember, had not been returned, even if they knew they were not alive. Even Trump even said that he couldn't believe how passionate these families were and Israel was at getting the remains as if they were alive, also just as important to the families and to the state of Israel to honor these heroes. And I will say it is really, really remarkable. But you're right. It would put a cease to suddenly this, unfair exchange of one person for, often 300 or 400 terrorists.
That's right. And something, I really want to give a lot of credit to John Katzimatidis and WABC, because today when I listened to Katz and Cosby, there was so much information-packed program. I turned for all my news to your show there, because anything that's important that's going on is being discussed there. And, with Congressman Tim Burchett, what you guys have talked about, I actually want to go on that, but I might not have time because...
Yeah, go ahead. That was wild. And let me explain to everybody what it was. He came out and said, and others have talked about this too, that apparently there's a series of scientists that have been involved in UFO and also in secret missile programs. One of them was a general who testified on the UFO program. And right after he testified, he left his house. I thought this was so odd, with his revolver, but not with like an ID and not with his phone. Leaves with a revolver. I mean, that's odd. And then all these other scientists that were tied to these secret programs, they somehow have been missing too, suddenly missing. That's odd, don't you think? And even Burchett thought this needs to be investigated.
Well, he even said that he was in a meeting and one of the men in black was sitting there and he was told that he doesn't exist, that he's not there.
Yeah, wasn't that was wild. In the White House too, no less. He was like, who's the guy over here? And they said, you don't see him.
Well, these things have in the past been relegated to conspiracy theory, but they're really not theory. They're the truth. And this really ties into things like even Butler, Pennsylvania. That was in front of our face, okay? That attempted assassination on President Donald Trump, That should have never happened. It was like that. That was laid out, and that was deliberately allowed to happen, and even Butler, it's almost like these things were done to send a message to President Trump. And let's even take a look at Jeffrey Epstein's, I want to call it assassination in his prison cell, which shouldn't have happened. I believe that that's a message being sent by the same type of people who are doing these other things, and we're going to have to realize that there is probably a shadow government somewhere, that's working against the best interests of this country, a deep state or whatever you want to call it, and this has to be exposed.
Yeah, I agree. And I still am not satisfied, Joaquin, with what, not what you said, but I'm agreeing with what you said in terms of Butler. There's still way too many mistakes that were just sloppy mistakes, turning a blind eye to certain things, the guy on the building, people complaining, just all of this stuff. And then the fact his body was cremated. That's something that John and I both always talk about a lot. You probably heard that, Joaquin, a couple of weeks ago. It's like, how do you have somebody who's evidence and they cremate the body because the family wanted it? I'm sorry, the guy tried to assassinate the president of the United States. I think you keep the body for evidence. There's something really fishy that just really stinks. I've covered a lot of cases, you guys. That one really stinks. Joaquin, to be continued. We'll definitely continue tomorrow night. Make sure you call back because this is such an interesting topic. And in the meantime, everybody will take your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a powerful story from Washington, D.C., where Vietnam veteran Jim Taylor was able to meet with some of his Vietnam band of brothers again after they took a 2-week trip back and visited the country for the first time since the war. He said, "We became family once again." The veteran, 88 years old, he now lives in Sacramento, California, and he was in Washington to celebrate National Vietnam War Veterans Day on Sunday. Just to give you a little background about him, he retired as an Army major in 1980. He joined the service from San Francisco in 1956. In 1968, he received the Medal of Honor from President Lyndon Johnson and was promoted to captain for his actions in the Battle of Quezon City in November of 1967. It was a battle west of Quezon that took place that he expressed tremendous heroism helping his fellow soldiers. So how beautiful to see he and others being reunited in our nation's capital. And everybody help America to never, ever forget. Donate just $11 a month. That's all it takes to help the incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Be sure to check them out at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Fox News is now streaming live on Fox One. When news breaks, we don't just report it. We go beyond the headlines to get the full story. Get live coverage, in-depth analysis, and perspectives from the voices you trust, all in one place. Whether you're at home or on the go, stay connected to the stories shaping our world. Stream Fox News on Fox One. Download today.
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm not an actor, just a guy living with prostate cancer. My wife and I face each day head on. We asked my doctor about Xtandi enzalutamide.
Xtandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Xtandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRESS, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Xtandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat start swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Xtandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Xtandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache.
Visit Xtandi.com to watch my story.
Hey there, it's me, John Stamos, in partnership with Cologuard. And a little birdie told me you're over 45. Listen, that's not old, it's really not. But it's an important age. If you're at average risk, that's when you start screening for colon cancer. And look, it's okay to be nervous, but it's not okay to ignore your own health. It's time to see if the Cologuard test can be an option for you to get screened. All right, I'm glad we had this little chat.
It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go right to your calls. Let's go to Kenny in Brooklyn, line 5. Go ahead, Kenny, your thoughts.
Rita, let's make this short. Let's go ahead and be the government and Dominique be the mayor. That's all we need.
Oh, wow. So you want me to be the governor and Dominic Carter to be the mayor. That, by the way,
right.
That would, right. I'm not sure about me, but Dominic would be a good mayor. That's for sure. He'd be great. Kenny, will you go out and campaign for both me and Dominic? Would you be?
Yes.
You'd go
yes.
out. All right.
Yes.
I just want to make sure, because if I can convince Dominic to go into this, you got to be all in. All right.
Oh, I'm in more than anybody.
All right. We love you, Kenny. I'm for Governor Rita Cosby and Mayor Dominic Carter. You heard it.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?